Good evening, everyone. My name is Dave Parenti. I'm the host for this Zoom meeting tonight of the Board of Selectmen Interview Committee. This open meeting of the Board of Selectmen Interview Committee is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12, 2020, due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of COVID-19. In order to mitigate the transmission of the COVID-19 virus, the town of Northborough has been advised and directed by the Commonwealth to suspend public gatherings, and as such, the governor's order suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible location. All members of the Board of Selectmen Interview Committee are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The order allows the Board of Selectmen Interview Committee to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with deliberations of the meetings. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda unless the chair notes otherwise. Members of the public who wish to view the live stream of this meeting may do so by going to Northborough Remote Meetings on YouTube via the link listed on the agenda. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will not feature public comment. I'm now going to confirm that everyone can hear and see each other. So Selectman Kalin?
Present.
And Selectman Rutan?
Present.
Excellent. I am going to disappear. I will still be here listening to you, and I will go ahead and bring in your first interview.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Our audio should be live.
Okay. Hi, Wanisa. Hi, I think you're on mute.
Hi, can you hear me now?
I can. Is it pronounced Wanisa?
Yes, Wanisa Tran.
Wanisa Tran, nice to meet you. I'm Leslie Rutan, Board of Selectmen.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Hi, Wanisa. I'm Tim Kalin.
Hi.
Welcome.
Sorry, I'm a little dark. I can't figure out the lighting in my room. Can you see? Is it okay or?
We can see you. Yeah, we can see your face, your glasses. So welcome. Thank you very much for being here and taking the time to meet with us and for applying for this position.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. If you could tell us a bit about yourself. We do have your application here, but I think for the audience who is watching or who may watch on replay, if you could tell us a little bit about yourself so they can hear as well.
Sure. Yeah, so a little bit about myself. My name is Wanisa Tran. I grew up in Drake, Massachusetts, so I'm not a lifelong Northborough resident. I went to school at University of Connecticut. I graduated with my Doctor of Pharmacy degree in 2011. After that, I went up to Dartmouth in New Hampshire to work there for a few years. And then after, kind of getting my foot in the door of my career, I decided it was time to come home to Massachusetts. So I'm currently working at UMass Memorial Medical Center in Worcester. And I've been living in Northborough for 4 years now. Oh, 3 years, 3 or 4 years.
Wonderful. If you could explain what attributes you have that you think would contribute to this particular position on the Diversity and Inclusion Committee.
Yeah, definitely. So I don't have any experience working with local government or being any part of a committee, but I think from my personal experience, as an Asian American woman, I will bring diversity to the committee, but also just working with the diverse patient population in the past and being able to empathize with different various, groups of people and really just trying to, learn more about the different diverse patient populations that we have in our community.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And I've worked in, various committees at work. So I know what it's like to work with, a group of people who have differing opinions and thoughts and different goals and trying to gathering everyone together and coming up with, one unified outcome.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. do you have a perception of what you envision this group accomplishing, let's say within the first year?
Yeah, I think since it's a new committee, we really have free reign on what we want to make it. So I really think it's important, one of our first meetings is really set up a mission to see what our collective goal is. Right now it's actually annual performance appraisal time for me at the hospital. So I'm all about SMART goals, making specific goals, measurable goals, achievable goals, relevant in a timely manner. Whether it's short-term goals or long-term goals. So I think being, the committee is diversity and inclusion. So one of the first things that's really important is to recognize how diverse is our community and what, kind of population are we trying to include. So I think it's important to identify, the diverse community that we do serve and how we can include them in all aspects of our community. I know, with kind of current, political, recent news, everything, a lot of diversity, a lot of people are focused more on like outward appearances, but I also think for diversity, it's also very important to include, inward identities that people might have, such as gender identity or sexual orientation, or even, disabilities, and things that you don't really necessarily think of as being a diverse community. But I think that's also very important to have in our, represented in our diversity and inclusion committee.
Mm-hmm. Very good points. Very good points. Because this is a brand new committee, nothing has been determined in terms of a meeting day or time or anything like that. What kind of availability do you have if you sit down as a group and discuss when you think you might be available? Do you have any limitations on that?
So I do work full-time at the hospital. So mornings will be tough for me. Evenings will be better. But, I am definitely flexible with the schedule. Working at the hospital, I do work on the weekend. So there's occasional days during the week where I'll have off. So I would be available for certain days during the daytime hours.
Okay. So evenings in general are okay. Are there any nights that you think you just say, no, I can't do that?
No.
Okay.
I work daytime shift at the hospital, so it shouldn't be an issue.
Okay. Okay. That sounds good. Tim, do you have any other thoughts or questions?
Do you have any questions for us? Is there anything that we can answer for you about the committee?
Yeah, so actually one of my questions was, I know it says, monthly meetings or as needed. I was wondering, actually just kind of going along with the time frame and like how long those meetings would be, just to get an idea of what the commitment will be to the committee.
I think at the beginning, it will probably meet once a month. Once we meet as a committee and determine what it is exactly in detail, what we want to accomplish, I think that will go a long way in dictating how often we meet. I don't foresee it being more than twice a month. Okay. So once to twice a month.
Yeah.
In the evening too. So I know during the day it's tough for most people to be.
Okay, perfect.
Evenings.
One of my other questions was one of the points on the, what the committee will be doing is to identify potential areas for improvement, based on local, state, and national research and experts on best practices. I was wondering what resources will be available to the committee.
As far as just data points or?
Yeah.
I have access to some information that I'll be able to share with the committee.
Okay.
So that we do have some benchmarks. Oftentimes too, it's not. A lot of people are focused on the numbers, and sometimes not the numbers that are important.
Right.
Diversity. When you look at the corporate world, diversity is often determined by numbers. And in some cases that's an easy workaround, but it doesn't. Inclusion, I think, is the more important.
Definitely. Like I said before, I think, being the diversity and inclusion is, step one is identifying how diverse our community is, and then how to incorporate them and make sure that everybody is included in our community. So I definitely.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think those will be topics for probably the first meeting that we have is just wrapping our better understanding for the committee on just some definitions and some understandings of what diversity is, what inclusion is, and how they connect, and equity and equality and those sorts of things.
Yeah, I know those are kind of hot topics right now. Equality is not always equity, and how to make sure that everyone does have all the resources that they have to succeed in life.
Correct. Yep.
Yeah, very good point. Very good points. Well, we're actually at the end of our, we're the 10-minute slots, which, by the way, is typical for all committees. We're not just shortening these necessarily, but we do have a lot of applicants. We have a total of, I believe, 19. So we interviewed 6 people last week. We're interviewing 6 this evening, and then 7, right? 7 next week. So anyway, so at that point, we'll have a discussion then about who we would select, and then we would appoint those people at our next Board of Selectmen meeting on November 9th.
Great.
So there would be no decision until then. So do you have any other questions for us?
No, that was it.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for your time, and again, for applying.
Of
We
course,
really
thank you.
appreciate it. We need good volunteers in town, so.
Yes.
Thank you. And by the way, it's kind of funny you mentioned Dartmouth Hitchcock. I was just thinking, oh, gee, my son was up in Dartmouth while you were there.
Oh.
That's kind of funny. You were at Dartmouth Hitchcock?
Was he working there?
No, on the campus.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. How did you like Dartmouth Hitchcock?
It was a beautiful area. It's so nice up there.
Isn't it beautiful?
It is.
Just gorgeous. The little town of Hanover is nice too, Lebanon, all that.
Right. Yeah.
Very nice. That's cool that you were up there.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, again, thank you very much. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. It was nice meeting you.
Have a good night.
Thank you, Anissa. Take care. Bye-bye.
And your next interview is in the waiting room. I can move her in whenever you like.
Okay. Does that sound good, Tim?
Sounds good.
Okay. Yeah, that'd be great, Chief. Thank you.
You're on mute.
I was saying that doesn't help anyone if I'm on mute. How are you doing?
How are you? Nice to see you.
It's great to see you too. Doing well. Thank you. Thank you. I'm glad we're having an opportunity to connect. This is cool. I like it.
Yes, nice to meet you. Thank you for applying. It's always
Sure.
to have good people apply. So thank you very much.
Absolutely. I'm excited.
Do you want to start by telling us a little bit about yourself? We got your application, but for the people that are viewing this, they obviously can't see that. So if you want to just talk a little bit about your background, that would be great.
Absolutely. Well, hello, everybody. My name is Lashika Holland. I am a resident in Northborough. I've been here for about 16 months since last May. My husband and I moved here right before our first son was born, and we were right down to the wire in terms of getting in before I delivered, and we made everything work, which is great. And we've been kind of settling in. We really wanted to set our roots here because of the community and the feel of the community from what we could tell from the outside looking in, and also for the strong school systems we knew we would be expecting. So we're really excited about becoming part of the group or the neighborhood. My background is really in business overall. So I have a degree in marketing and an MBA as well, or a master's in business administration. And I have been working in marketing, particularly with in the pharmaceutical field for about 10 years. So that's a lot of my background. Really excited to be here in Northborough and excited to be applying for this position to, really lend my time and my voice and some of my skills to help move forward inclusion and diversity within our neighborhoods and our community.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. When you think about the Diversity and Inclusion Committee, one of the things that's really important is that we have a wide spectrum of perspectives. What sort of perspective do you think you'll be able to bring to the committee?
Yeah, so I think that's really fair to think about the different perspectives that everybody's bringing, right? From my side, I think that there's one element of, having a diverse background myself. So I've experienced certain interactions, whether here in Northborough or elsewhere, that I think that can bring that perspective, just having experienced racism and other challenges in my life. The other element of that, being a woman, I think that there's a lot to be said for some of the hurdles that you have to kind of jump over when you're a woman, being in business, trying to have a seat at the table. I think that being able to kind of open up everyone's eyes to some of what people face, either being from a different ethnicity or even being a woman. I think those are two different perspectives potentially that can be brought to the table depending on who else is part of the committee. So.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's, sorry, I dropped my.
That's okay. I couldn't
pen.
even get myself off mute, so you're good. You're
Well,
good.
you would think after doing 8 or 10 of these that I would have this down pretty good, but.
It's all good.
Much like I'm just happy if I'm not on mute.
Yeah,
There are people in my life that I do wish had a mute button though.
I hear you on that. I hear you.
If you were to get on the committee, is there something specific or that you would just like to see the committee accomplish over the 12 months?
Yeah, I think that one thing that jumped out to me when I was reading the description or what the committee is looking to do is really having an opportunity to sift through what our current policies as a town look like and where we might be able to make some modifications. I think that from my perspective, this being a new committee, kind of a new idea for the company, for the community, and for the town, it's really thinking about how do we kind of set the right objectives and some key milestones that we're looking to hit over the course of this year. But I think it starts with really understanding where we are and then really building out what that plan looks like. And maybe there's some small wins or some low-hanging fruit we can attack. And I think that would be great if we could show some of those wins in the upfront. But I think that this year, from my perspective, would be more focused on how do we build our plan over the next 18 months all the way through to maybe 5 years out to truly be able to make change and then measure that change over time too.
Yeah, no, I agree with you 1,000% on the wins. I think that's going to be, it's going to be an important part of the first 6 or so months to show some progress. So
yeah, for sure. For sure.
Do you have any concerns about or limitations on availability? I think we don't have a set date or time yet. My assumption is that we'll probably meet in the evenings.
Yep.
To start once a month.
Okay.
And then once we set what we want to accomplish, then make a determination if we need to meet more than once a month. I don't foresee us meeting more than twice a month, so probably one or two times a month in the evening.
Yeah, I think that would be fine, especially if it's in the evening, because I'm juggling full-time work, and my husband and I did just get a nanny, so that does make things a little bit easier. But if I have to juggle with work and during working hours, I think that could be a little challenging. But if it's around this time or just after 5, I can definitely make that work.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you're 16 months old?
My son is, just about, because we've been here for about 16 months. Yeah, crazy time. Time went by.
That's a fun age.
Yeah, he's been great. Yeah, it's been nice to see him grow, and he's a sweetie. He's a sweetie. Yeah.
Leslie, do you have any questions that you wanted to ask?
Yeah, just curious. Do you have ideas of maybe effective ways for outreach to find out what the pulse of the community is and how people are feeling about what's going on in Northborough? Are there some things that you suggest?
Yeah, so I don't know if there's an opportunity to use time perhaps during town meetings. I know sometimes it's hard to get a lot of attendance at those events, so that could be a challenge. But it could even be, giving folks an invitation to participate in some sort of a survey with a small incentive attached to it. That always drives more involvement if there's something in it for them, aside from making the community better, but something tangible. So that would be potentially one way, just having something available through like a Survey Monkey or some other format online, and kind of getting that invitation out to folks to be able to just provide their insights, and then also potentially win a gift card or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea, because it kind of falls in line with what you were saying, where you really need to figure out what the foundation is first.
Yeah,
Really
yeah.
figure out what the feelings really are truly here in Northborough among the various parts of the community, and then build on that.
Absolutely. 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 And I think that would be great if we could get, a strong response rate on a survey like that, because it, to your point, helps with setting that foundation and then determining where the opportunities might lie outside of what the team on the committee feels. That there could be so much more that we haven't even uncovered.
Right. Exactly.
Yep.
We're pretty much at the end of the interview, 10 minutes, which is our classic time.
Okay.
For all interviews. Do you have any questions of us? Anything you're uncertain about, or anything you're wondering about at all?
Yeah, I guess, well, we're right at 10 minutes. Okay, so I don't want to take too much more time, but I'm just appreciative of the opportunity to be able to speak with you all. And I don't know what your timeline looks like for a turnaround in terms of letting people know. I don't know how long it's taking for you all to kind of go through all the candidates and speak with everybody. So do you have an idea?
Well, we interviewed 6. We had a total of 19 applications, which is why our date for appointments actually was moved back further, because we interviewed 6 people last week. We're interviewing 6 people this week, and then 7 next week. Then appointments will be made at our next Board of Selectmen meeting on November 9th, I think it is.
Yeah, November 9th.
Right, November 9th. So nothing will be determined before then.
Okay, that's totally fine. That's really helpful to know, and I'll just kind of keep an eye out to hear.
Okay, that sounds wonderful.
Thank
we
you.
appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Have a good one.
Thank you. It was nice meeting you.
Nice to meet you too.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Whenever you're ready.
I'm good.
Okay, yep, sure.
Okay, I'll move her right in.
Hi, Sherry. I think you're on mute. There you go.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, Sherry. How are you? Leslie Rattan, Board of Selectmen.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you
Hi, Sherry.
too.
Hi, Sherry. Tim Kalen.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. Thank you for being here. Thank you for applying. Thank you for taking the time to meet with us.
Absolutely.
We appreciate it. If you could tell us about yourself, why you applied for this position.
Sure. So with everything kind of that's going on in the world right now, I thought it was great that Northborough was including a committee that tackled some of these issues. I just recently helped a friend of mine go through a campaign, and she's from a diverse background, and it was a very eye-opening experience for me. I would say even a little shocking about what I discovered about this area, that I think I didn't realize some of the undercurrent that still exists that maybe I wasn't aware of. I've also spent kind of my work background working with very diverse groups of people, as well as the scout groups that I lead and things like that. So it's an important topic to me. it's definitely a committee that I didn't want to see be created and then not have applicants apply to. So I wanted to make sure that I at least threw my hat in the ring and gave it a shot. With that said, I think one of the important things that I should state is I do feel like this committee should be people of diverse backgrounds. And so if there are a number of applicants, I would happily remove myself for somebody that may have a more diverse background, because I think it's important that those voices be heard. And although I've seen I've worked with a lot of people from diverse backgrounds, I certainly don't have that personal experience to lend to the committee that somebody else might have.
Okay.
Yeah, it's going to be a very important part of the committee to make sure that we do have as many different perspectives as we can get. And it doesn't mean that one perspective is more important or less important than anybody else's. It's the variety of perspectives that's going to be very, very important.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about your background and what attributes you have that you think would lend themselves well to this position.
Sure. So starting out of college, I worked in a social service background. I was working with people, again, from various different backgrounds, both culturally as well as economically. From there, I went on to do a small business that ended up in people's homes, where I was invited into all sorts of different homes, different backgrounds, where I got to know people on a really personal basis. And that was a really fun experience. It was really neat to get that perspective. Post that, I work at Trinity Church, and my group there is with the teens and youth there, but obviously I work with the larger community at the church as well. And I have a diverse background there. I've done Scouts since my daughter was in kindergarten. So we're going on about 9 or 10 years now. I have 2 different Scout groups now. And again, both of those groups have a number of girls from various different backgrounds. So that's kind of been my experience. And I think probably the first time where it came up for me in town was with my girls from diverse backgrounds. We were going into the holiday season, and I realized there was a lot of emphasis on Christmas, and there might have been a lot of emphasis on Hanukkah, but I had girls celebrating Diwali, I had girls celebrating Ramadan, and it really just occurred to me that there was no emphasis whatsoever placed on those holidays for them. And so we started as a troop and a den to try and highlight those things and let those girls also talk about their culture and what they were celebrating and how that was fun for them and what it meant to them. So I think that was really the first time in town that these type of things came up for me. More so after this campaign, I think, is when I really got a broader picture, speaking to lots of different people and maybe getting a sense for what people of different backgrounds, people of color in town, things like that, are experiencing.
Do you have ideas as far as how you would conduct outreach to get a feel or a pulse for what's going on in the town of Northborough?
Yeah, I have no problem talking to people in the various different groups. I feel like my kids are actually, I have 3 of them. There's a 10-year age gap between my first and my last, which has afforded me a really unique perspective of getting to know a lot of different people in town, because I'm dealing with 3 different classes.
Yes.
And so you get to know a lot of people between the classes and then in their extracurricular activities. So I don't have any problem kind of being extroverted and talking to people and asking the questions, even if maybe they're harder questions or more sensitive questions to ask. But I would definitely love to see our town kind of embrace and celebrate some of the many different cultures and backgrounds that we have here, because I think that's valuable for everybody.
Well, that's a good segue actually into my next question, which is, what do you envision this particular committee accomplishing, let's say within the first, let's say 8 to 12 months?
So I will be the first to tell you that I'm always like, I'm the person that wants to take the giant bite when I know that you need to take little bites at a time. So what I would love to see first is to get a real feedback, whether it be through a town survey or whether it be through some type of mechanism to really actually hear from the general population in town, which for me would also include the kids. I've gotten so much feedback from my middle school and my high school kids, and I don't just mean my own, I mean the kids I'm working with or doing scouts with. And I think they have a great perspective, and they're very honest. Kids are very honest about what they are dealing with or seeing or hearing. So I would love to see that be the first step, is really getting some valuable feedback, because I think that's how you move forward, is then addressing where the issues might be, where we can improve, what we might do to facilitate some positive change in town around these things. So that would be my first idea, but I would definitely love to go beyond that. I don't know if there's plans for this committee to also work with the school committee on integrating some of the things into, you know, our schools in town. I think that would be important. I'm all about education. I think the more we can educate people and the more we can celebrate diversity, the better off we all are. So.
And I think those are all great ideas. And because this is a new committee, I think that the committee can sit and really brainstorm that. And I think a survey could be very interesting. I think we might all be surprised at what results come in. It could be really fascinating to hear about. I mean, we all have preconceived notions about what we think we're seeing or what others are experiencing, but we don't know for sure. So I think that could be really fascinating.
And I think a survey is a nice way to allow people to have a little bit of anonymity. I think it's very hard if you are a minority in town to really have a big voice, just because maybe some of those things are hard to say or hard to put out there for the community. So,
because this is a new committee, there's no set time or day yet. What is your availability in general?
I have pretty good availability. I work a job that's about 14 hours a week, but I have a variable schedule. So really my only day that I am not available is a Sunday. And then my evenings are pretty open as well, because where I can't do a pickup, my husband would be able to do a pickup. So.
I hear you. Okay. Do you have questions of us?
I guess I'm wondering, I know some of the feedback that I heard is that there are 9 seats, 4 of which are going to be taken by current members from other boards. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. So I guess I'm curious, when this was created, kind of what the hope was with the creation of it in moving forward.
My vision for it is really to get 9 people on the committee that have different perspectives, that are open to sharing those perspectives, and that are willing to work together to make the town more diverse and inclusive. I know that's general, but that's really what it is. It's the nice thing, as Leslie was saying, since it is a new committee, there's a lot of different paths that we can take to get there, and I think that's really, I as the person that founded the committee can certainly just say this is what we're going to do, but that's not right. I think it's really up to the committee to say, collectively, based on our experiences, these are the things that we feel are important, that we should get done, and that we should spend our time on, and prioritize those, and really focus on making a difference.
Exactly.
Oh, is that helpful?
It is, yes.
Okay.
Well, we're pretty much at the end of the interview time period. We're really trying to keep on schedule. We have so many. We interviewed 6 last week. We're interviewing 6 this evening, and then we have 7 next week. So we would be appointing someone during our November 9th Board of Selectmen meeting.
That's wonderful. I love to hear that there were so many people interested. That's great.
It was surprising. We originally were going to be appointing somebody this month, I think, right, Tim? But there were so many
Yes.
people. We couldn't foresee trying to interview 19 people in 1 week. It just seemed like a little bit much. So we did move it back for that reason. And we want to give everybody a fair shake. We don't want to feel like, we're rushing through this and just snagging a few people. So I think it's important to give everybody a nice opportunity to interview. So that'll be done in November.
Okay.
But we really appreciate your time. Thank you for applying. Thank you for taking the time to interview with us. We appreciate it.
Thanks for your time. Have a good night.
Thank you. It was nice meeting you.
Nice meeting you too.
Hey guys, just so you know, we have both our next 2 in the waiting room.
Okay.
This is, okay.
Deidre?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, let me know when you're ready.
That'd be great.
Good, Chief. Thank you.
On the way.
Hi, Deidre.
Hi, how are you?
Good, thank you. How are you?
Doing well, thanks.
Good. Thank you for being here. I'm Leslie Rattan, Board of Selectmen.
Hi, I'm Tim Callan with the Board of Selectmen.
We
Nice to meet
appreciate the
you.
application. Thank you so much. So if you could tell us about yourself and tell us why you have applied for this position.
Sure. I guess I'll start with why I applied. I'll kind of blend the two, if that's okay.
Sure.
I recently-ish moved to Northborough, so we've lived here for 5 years. We have twin boys. They are in the 5th grade at Z School, and I really honestly joined for them. I want for them to feel a part of the community. I want for them to get the things that they need as they grow and develop. And I feel like this opportunity was my chance to actually influence something that I'm not, I wouldn't otherwise have the opportunity to. We influence them as much as we can at home, but I understand that there are so many other things that influence them. And so that was really the motivation. Sort of after George Floyd's murder, there was a shift in my home life and my work life. And I was just, what can I do? It was a feeling of powerlessness. So that the calls that have come out have really been a blessing, because it gives me kind of a purpose and a way to be impactful in ways that are, bigger than myself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
No, I just was going to say, I hope to, bring of myself as an individual, but also in my background.
Mm-hmm.
So that's part that I didn't add, but I'll let you go ahead, Tim.
All I was going to say is it's just incredibly, and I mentioned this in the statement that we made for the board, that it's just incredibly unfortunate that it takes something like the murder of George Floyd to mobilize people. It's just
Mm-hmm.
very unfortunate.
Mm-hmm.
When you think about the committee, if you were to join the committee, is there anything specifically that you would like to see the committee accomplish over the first 8 to 12 months?
Well, I think for me that, and with anything I've ever done, it always begins with assessment. Like, I'm sure there are things that are going on that people, myself included, just don't know about. that are really positive. And I think understanding what those are and how anything the committee does can add to those is a very important place to start. And understanding what the most value add would be. So that component. Also understanding, what other people have done. So I run a committee that teaches faculty members about unconscious bias and its impact on the search process when we're searching to diversify our faculty at Northeastern. And we just dig into the literature and understand, what universities are doing a really good job with this and what are they doing. Mm-hmm. So I think those two pieces of knowledge together really give you a picture of, what's needed and what types of things would have an impact.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
If you're going to do outreach, for example, let's say at the beginning of the committee work, just to get a feel for what's going on in Northborough in particular, what would you think would be an effective way of trying to get the pulse of what's happening here?
Well, I think climate surveys definitely work. I think that the downside of that is that usually any survey doesn't have the best response rate. Mm-hmm. So I would like to see something more engaging, like focus groups, where people get to really engage and talk mm-hmm. to one another. I think a lot can be gleaned from that, and really looking at a broad swath of the community to get a real pulse. I know that the reason I say that is because most of the people who, when you do a focus group, most of the people who respond are like the people who already drank the Kool-Aid, and it's not really the best or the clearest picture of what's really going on. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I think the questions are also important. And I think focus group gives you that flexibility to kind of go with what the group is saying and have the questions evolve. Obviously you have a base of questions, but you can't really do that with a survey either. Mm-hmm,
mm-hmm. So tell us about yourself. Tell us about your background.
How what? Sorry.
Tell us about your background. Tell us a little bit about yourself. So that, we have your application, but for the audience, people will view these meetings. So.
Yeah, sure. So I grew up in San Francisco, California. Yeah, a long way from here. Yeah. But I've actually lived in Massachusetts for 20 years now. I moved here in 2000 to go to graduate school. I'm a scientist. I remember when I was switching careers, and I was talking to a mentor of mine, and I was so distraught that I wouldn't be a scientist anymore. And she said, Deidre, you're always going to be a scientist. And I was like, oh, you're absolutely right. So I always still introduce myself as a scientist, even though I'm not working in the lab right now. So like I said, I came to go to graduate school. I hold a PhD in genetics from Harvard Medical School. And I went on to do a postdoctoral fellowship at the Broad Institute of MIT. Some of the best years of my life. I loved
that's wonderful.
Digging into problems of diabetes. So I studied, my graduate work is in rare genetic disorders of how our body processes iron. After graduate school, I really wanted to do something more impactful. So I chose a problem that is growing in our country, which is diabetes. My mother suffers from diabetes. And so that was really a huge motivation for me to continue that work in a very, it's very difficult to study a complex disease that has so much to do with the environment. So that is my background. While I was both a graduate student and a postdoc, an overwhelming sort of second job for me was having to do with my identity in the workplace. So growing up in San Francisco, going to Howard University, which is a historically Black college or university, I always felt like I belonged. And then moving to Massachusetts and being on the campus of Harvard, it was the first time that my identity and belonging was challenged. And I didn't understand it. I didn't know that the things that I was feeling have words. And since then, I have really begun to teach people learn about them for myself and teach undergraduate students. No one should go to graduate school and believe that they're not smart enough to be there. You got in, you belong. No matter if people, ignore you in lab meeting or whatever the case may be, that is their issue. And you need to develop the strength to persevere and surround yourself with the mentors that are going to help you. So that's a large part of why I transitioned to a position at UMass Boston that allowed me to influence undergraduates who wanted to go into science. So really sparking that interest in science, but laying the foundation for them to be really successful. And that meant teaching them about imposter syndrome and how to overcome it. That meant teaching them how to evaluate their mentors. Shouldn't be an accident. You just got paired with this person. That's your advisor. You need to surround yourself with a set of mentors. So those types of things, I developed a course called Communicating in Science that really, like I said, taught undergraduates, how to navigate the world of a scientist. And along that journey, I found that the real influencers of these students is not me as the manager of a program that maybe gives them some money to work in the lab, but it's really that mentor, the person that they look to. So I started doing mentor training, culturally conscious mentor training. And that was all of faculty. And that's what really got me into faculty development and eventually led me to Northeastern. So I'm following these passions of making sure that people understand how to treat others, understand their ability to really influence someone else's life, and how do you go about doing it. It's not about lowering standards. Like the best mentors of mine basically said, you need to do it. The bar, you need to do it up here. And I believe in you. And here's how you're going to get there. But they never said, I need to lower my bar. So
that's wonderful. I love everything you just said. And I'm glad this is on video so that other people can hear this and hear what you said. It's wonderful what you just said. I love your path and your journey.
I think
Thank
that's
you.
The type of compassion that would be very beneficial to the community.
Yep, absolutely. We actually have another interview we need to start, but do you, first of all, thank you so much for what you just said. And do you have any other questions of us?
I did have one question, and that's really what is your vision for the outcome of this journey that you're embarking on?
I think, as I said in earlier, my vision for this was really getting a committee put together that has 9 people that have very different perspectives, diverse backgrounds, that are open to sharing their experience, and really as a group want to work together to make this community better. That's really what the vision is for this. What that means and what the outcomes are, I don't know, because I really think that's up to the people that are on the committee to make those decisions, to determine which paths we should take. I've joked that just because I'm on the board of selectmen and advocated for this committee, that I'm going to be like, this is what we're going to do, and that's not my role. That's not the role. It's the committee's role, for everybody to hear each other and listen and determine which path or paths we feel that we want to put our time to.
Mhm. Mhm. And then using the information that is gleaned from outreach to kind of figure out what the starting point is. We probably all have a different, vision of what the starting point is too. What really are the issues here? We all have preconceived notions, but we don't know any of that for sure. So it'd be very interesting to say the least. So we really appreciate you applying and taking the time to meet with us this evening and speaking very eloquently about your path here. So
Great. Well, thank you both. It was great to meet you, and I look forward to seeing what this evolves into.
okay, thank you so much.
Excellent. Thank you. It was nice meeting you.
You as well. Take care.
You take
Thank
care.
you.
Your next candidate is available.
Okay. Dave Lorenzi.
Yep.
Awesome. Sounds great. Yeah, we're only 5 minutes behind, I think.
You all set, Mr. Kalin?
I'm good.
He's on the way.
Hi, Dave Lorenzi.
Hey, how you doing?
How are you?
Not too bad. Yourself?
Good. Leslie Rattan, Board of Selectmen.
Hi, Dave. Tim Kalin, Board of Selectmen.
Hey, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Pretty good. Pretty good.
Thanks so much for applying.
Well, thanks for putting it out there.
So we've obviously got your application here, but just for the people that are watching, can you just talk a little bit about yourself and your background?
Sure. So I've lived in Northborough over 30 years now. I raised my kids here. They are all Algonquin graduates. I'm a small business owner. I own a CPA firm with about 25 people. And, I think from my end, what kind of was a little bit of got me interested in this is just kind of seeing that everything that's going on around us, and you look at what you can do to make a difference. And, I thought to myself that it was kind of time to get involved and try to help. And I think I've got a pretty good, realm of experience and diversity in my own life. And I think that, through my job and through, my personality and my experiences, I feel that I can, help the community, which honestly has been so good to me and my family.
Yeah, absolutely. Since it's a new committee, if you were to join it and you think about, some of the things that the committee can do, what are some things that you would like to see the committee accomplish?
I think that, one of the things that we need to do is encourage in anything that we can do to create an atmosphere of welcomeness and openness in our town. And I think the way to do that is reaching across to people in our town who are unique or are different from each other. I'm obviously a 57-year-old middle-aged white male business owner. I think it would be great to have, a young adult member of the clergy, which I know has been discussed, a group of diverse people of color, people of different sexual orientation, so that we can really kind of have a good cross group of what can we do to help each other? What can we do to, make everybody feel welcome? If I have 8 other people who share similarities with me, we're only going to get one perspective. If there's a well-diverse group, I think we can really, go to everybody's concerns and kind of do the best we can to help within our town.
Mhm, mhm.
You know,
That's-
if you look at a problem like, systemic racism, it can't be solved, in my opinion, at a national level. Things like that, social justices, they have to start at a grassroots, local, town level. And, Northborough, I commend for doing its part. And if selected, I would love to be part of that. But I think really that's where, issues like this need to be resolved. A government can mandate whatever they want at a higher level, but it's really grassroots among, the people in the town and individual households that are going to grow something like this to fruition.
Mhm, mhm. Dave, how would you suggest, or do you have any ideas for outreach in terms of being able to get a real feel for what sentiments there are in Northborough? Since I think probably everybody has preconceived notions of what they think other people are experiencing or thinking. Do you have any thoughts about how we could get a better perspective on that?
Yeah, so I've followed what's gone in the news in our own community. I've seen letters from, for example, Algonquin graduates who have, who have expressed their dissatisfaction with the way they were treated. And I would probably start by reaching out to people such as those who have raised a voice and said, okay, you're drawing attention to something that's not going well in our community, and our community wants to repair that. So that's kind of step one. And then to, elaborate on that, you start to put something in process to, address what their concerns were. And to elaborate, you talk to more people and you try to get the word out. Just the fact that we have a committee in trying to, draw people to that committee, I think is an important way to start, so that people are aware we're out here, they're aware that something can be done. And if they have a complaint, if they have an issue, yes, they may do an open letter on social media or to a local media outlet, but our committee is also here to actually act on it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And, I've seen a few young people through social media address problems that exist in this town. And, that's a logical place to start to, try to solve them.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Tell us a little bit more about your background and what other attributes you have that you think would lend themselves to this kind of work.
So, on the surface, you may look at me, 57-year-old white male. My parents were immigrants. They were actually adult immigrants to this country. So they were married in a foreign nation. They came over here as adults, and I'm a first generation myself. I have a mixed race grandson. My future son-in-law is from his family's from El Salvador. What I really feel is that in my position, in my job, is what really gives me, the suitable, makes me suitable for this position. Because as a CPA and a business owner, I'm not sitting at my sitting at my desk doing tax returns all day. Mostly what I'm doing is negotiating and compromising. Business owners, partners, family members, anyone who's ever owned a small business or owned a family-run business knows that some of the dynamics and the dysfunction and the arguments that can happen in there. And I find myself, part CPA, part business consultant, part mental health professional sometimes to help these people through this. And I have helped people buy in, buy out, reconcile differences. It's what I do for a job. And even within my own company, managing people, managing employees, dealing with problems. you have, a company where you have 25 people, not everybody is always going to agree on everything. And it's my job to mediate and come to an acceptable solution for all. That is honestly more so than my background, what I think makes me qualified for this position. Although I do have an understanding in my background, and believe me, my parents had very thick accents when I was young, and I know things are different. I can't compare my situation, but my parents and myself have seen the way they were spoken to by certain people, the way that we were looked down by certain people. They came here. My father was a janitor in the school system. My mom was an assembly line worker. They really did start with nothing and live the American dream, which allowed me to prosper. And I'm very grateful for that. And it's honestly a hot button issue with me because I know the opportunities that I had. I also knew that it came with hard work, but I feel that everybody should have that opportunity. And I think we do know through some of the systemic problems in this country that not everybody has that opportunity, even when they've been born here. Northborough may not be exactly, the epicenter of that problem, but Northborough can get better. We all can get better, and we can all improve. I do believe that when you stop striving to improve, you fall behind because there's always something you can do to better yourself, and that's our community as well.
Totally agree with that. Totally agree. So would you be open to then really kind of the fact that this is a brand new committee and, as Tim has said, it's not like he's going to come in as a member of the Board of Selectmen and just say, okay, this is what we're doing, everybody. It's really going to be, starting from the ground up to determine, what the parameters are going to be, if any, and what the pathways are going to be, and, what the outreach is going to be for information gathering and things like that. So kind of neat with it being a brand new committee like that and having a nice group of diverse people on it. Do you have questions, other questions of us about this?
Actually, my main question you kind of asked, with your first question, my comment was, how is the committee going to work? Is there someone who's going to come in and take charge? Is there someone who's going to be the leader? And if I am brought on, what is my role going to be? Is it support? Is it a leadership role? Are we going to just kind of feel it out and see what happens? I'm a type A personality. I definitely, want to be involved. I'm not joining to kind of tag along, but I also want to know my role in what's expected of me. And if it's to observe, learn, and react, I'm happy to do that. If it's to, lead, I'm happy to do that as well. And I didn't know if you had any preconceived notions of how the committee was going to start running.
Maybe Tim, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think it's since it is a new committee, a lot of those things will work out in the first meeting. I think it's going to be in the first meeting, the discussion's really going to center around, this is the charge of the committee, and how do we define that into action that we want to take? What areas of the community do we want to address? Are certain areas more important than others? Based on experiences that people have had, do we want to learn more from the community through outreach, as Leslie has mentioned, before we make any decisions? So I think the first meeting is going to be a conversation around those. And then at that point, determining some of the roles and responsibilities of the committee members. It's kind of tough now because I don't know who the committee members are going to be, and backgrounds are and what the different strengths that people are going to bring to the committee. So until we have that first committee meeting, it's going to be flexible, I guess.
Sure. And that's understandable, especially with a new committee. It's, definitely a feeling out process. I'm available to do what's asked or expected. If it's to take a lead role, I'm happy to do that. If it's support in a little bit, of reaching out to community members or different organizations, I'm happy to do that as well and report back. Whatever's needed. I just feel that I have something I can offer and I'd like to help.
No, that's great.
Now, I did see something about the committee is going to be active for a year and then it's looking to report back at the end of the year, which I believe I read on the application or the website. Is this something that you're intending for the committee to continue for the infinite future, or does it have a finite life?
As the committee is defined right now, it will disband after the 12 months. But I also think too, as the committee works through, part of the charge for the committee is to present recommendations to the Board of Selectmen. And absolutely one of the recommendations that we can make to the Board of Selectmen is to have the Diversity and Inclusion Committee continue for another 12 months, be a more permanent part of the committee structure in town. So that's, as it's defined now, it has a 12-month life, but that can change.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, that makes sense to me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So we interviewed 6 people last week. We're interviewing 6 this evening, and then we have 7 next week. So
Okay.
we'll be appointing someone at our November 9th meeting. So nothing will happen until then. We just need to get through interviews. Originally, we were hoping to appoint a committee this month, but so many people applied and we wanted to give everybody a fair shake. And to be honest, I didn't think I could survive interviewing 19 people in 1 week. It seemed a little,
It's tough. Yeah, that's a tall task.
Yeah, and we want to remember people too. We don't want to interview so many people and then say, well, wait a minute, who was that person? So
yeah.
Well, the positive thing is that there's a lot of people that want to get involved, and that's a good thing.
yes.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It's wonderful. So unless you have any other questions, this would be the end of the interview period. We pretty much usually allow like 10 minutes or so generally for our interviews. So
Sure. No, that's fine. I mean, if I'm selected, I'm eager, willing, and ready to help. And if not, I certainly will do, whatever I can to help our town and definitely support the committee. And I think this is a great thing you're doing this.
That's great. Dave, that's awesome.
Perfect.
Awesome. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. It was nice meeting you.
Nice to meet you as well. Take it easy.
Take care. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Hey guys, your last candidate is not here yet.
Okay.
Di did send me a text that he said he may not make it until 7:10, so I'll let you know.
Oh. Oops. Okay. Okay.
Hey, folks, he's here.
Oh, great.
I'm good.
Yep.
On the way.
Good evening.
Good evening. Cormac?
Yes.
McManus?
Yes.
Okay, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you
Leslie
too.
McCann, Board of Selectmen.
Nice to meet you, Tim Kalin with the Board of Selectmen.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. I
Yeah.
appreciate you rescheduling. I had obviously the conflict, but my students were nice about me ending class early tonight, so I could sit in for this interview.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you very much. Worked out just perfectly, actually. So tell us about yourself. Tell us a bit about you and your background and why you have applied for this.
Perfect. So my name is Cormac. I am actually a immigrant. I came to the United States about 11 years ago. I've lived permanently in the United States since 2011. Met my wife here. We have a son. We moved to Northborough a few years ago. As a profession, I am a board certified behavior analyst. I work at a school for children with autism, where I've worked since 2009. That's what brought me to this country. And I'm currently pursuing my doctorate in behavior analysis at Western University and hope to complete my studies by the end of this calendar year. In conjunction with working at my center, the Ring Center for Children in Southborough along Route 9, that big glass building right there. I also teach as a adjunct professor at Assumption College in Worcester, UMass Boston, and at Regis College in Weston, teaching courses in behavior analysis to undergraduate students and graduate students. I'm interested in applying for this position. I think as someone who came from an area of the world that has seen conflict in the last 100 years, I'm from the north of Ireland, from Belfast in particular. I have seen what a non-inclusive society can do to people. I've also seen how generations can kind of come out of that type of history and not repeat the same history as older generations to a degree. I know that when I was growing up, in my family, I was taught not to treat people from different faiths or different backgrounds in a different way from how I was raised. I'm from a Irish Catholic background. The other part of the Northern Ireland community is British Protestant, but I never grew up looking down on that side of the community or treating them differently when I did go to university myself and meet people from that background. I think the other thing that's very prevalent to me this year with how this year has kind of panned out with everything that's going on, I do have a 4-year-old son. It is it's very important to me that he grows up in a world where people are not treated differently because of how they look or what they believe in, where they're from, that people are judged by the actions that they take. And if I can do something, at least at a local level, to help promote that, I want to be able to do that and be part of that conversation.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What personal attributes do you have that you feel would lend themselves well to work on this committee?
So I've been involved in a number of committees at my work site. So I work as a clinician. I have been involved in working collaboratively with folks at the same level as me. My main job at NECC, the job that I've had for the longest time in my career there, was as a clinical supervisor for one of our residential teams, and it was important for me to work with a wide range of clinicians and staff members, parents, school districts, to ensure that our students were getting the clinical needs that they needed in terms of the education that they needed, but then also These are residential students, children with autism, who engage in really challenging behavior. So we're faced with situations that are dangerous, that people have different opinions on, and it's important for me to work collaboratively with a group that includes medical professionals, speech and language pathologists, occupational therapists, mom and dad, other behavior analysts like myself, and then also the staff that I supervise to implement the procedures, to implement the teaching strategies, to help these students learn the skills that they weren't going to learn in a typical classroom setting, to help treat these high levels of dangerous problem behavior that they had a history in engaging in. That takes a lot of trust. That takes a lot of organization. I think as someone who can work collaboratively with a team that can take on responsibilities, that can take on projects at an individual level, but also work collaboratively for a group, I think that's what I could bring to the table for this committee.
Tell us what you envision happening with a committee such as this in terms of what you think could be realistically accomplished within the first 8 to 12 months.
I mean, from my perspective, like I said, I've lived in the town for 3.5 years. I'll be honest, I don't know the whole makeup of the town. So I think one thing that I would like to accomplish in the town is getting to know folks from different backgrounds who live in the town, people from different walks of life. Because I honestly, in my neighborhood, in my street, I don't see a lot of diversity. And I know that diversity does exist in the town, but I think helping to organize situations where people can have those reach outs, can get to know their community a little bit more. It's something that, I think Northborough is a friendly town. I definitely have friendly neighbors, but I don't know if there's the element of, outside of, those big events like the Apple Fest, for example, I don't know if there's enough events in the town that bring the whole community together on a consistent basis. And I think that's something that could be a first step in kind of ensuring that all voices that live in the town are kind of heard and are contributing to a good community here in Northborough.
What do you think would be some ways that we could do some outreach to do information gathering to determine what really is happening in Northborough specifically as far as this issue?
Well, I mean, I'm not going to say that I know the ins and outs of how that information would be collected. I know that there could be there's probably some legal precedent in terms of how you obtain that types of information. I know that we just had a census, so that might be one area to go in terms of learning what is the makeup of the town. But I also think it's kind of outreach, I'll be honest. I mean, when I saw this group advertised, this committee advertised on the one of the community groups on Facebook, I did go onto the town website and I found there was a way I didn't know this, but I found there was a way to kind of get more updates on the different committees that meet in the town, which I was unfamiliar with. So at least getting like that information, I think, having some sort of way to get people involved. I think by getting people involved, then we can learn about the type of diversity that we have in the town and maybe help promote people who maybe didn't think that these types of committees could be open to them to be included and to have a say in how the community operates here in Northborough. I think that might be a first step in kind of doing that.
Do you have questions of us about how the committee is going to work or anything like that?
I mean, I'm realistic that this is probably how we're going to meet because this is the world right now. And I'll be honest, this is, I'm home right now, as you can see. I spend most of my day in front of the computer on Zoom meetings. So I've gotten pretty fluent with that modality of communication. I think it is important that at some point we do meet in person. I hope that will be something that we can do safely. But I think the other thing that I'd be interested in hearing is, what would be those 12 to 18-month goals that and how would they be developed? Would it be something that that would be developed by the committee that is selected, or the members of the committee that are selected? Will we work collaboratively to assign those, or are there something that we've kind of maybe the wider town administration have kind of already developed and the job of the committee is to kind of carry those goals out. I think the other question then comes in with, kind of it's related to how we had to reschedule the interview from last week to this week. I think I would also be interested in knowing how often we would meet as a committee, and what would be the time commitment. Like I said, I want to get involved in how the community operates. I am mindful though that like most people, I'm very busy, and there's like different things. I have different commitments here, there, and everywhere. Tonight is a perfect example of that. I literally just ended my class a minute ago. So that would be something I'd be interested in hearing about, is kind of getting more information on how, like when the committee would be meeting, how often, and then, would there be, I would imagine that the committee would select either internally or from, oh, hey, pup. This happens in my class. Every single student has their dogs walking around. This is not the first time this happens, so you're fine.
This is part of the fun of working with. It's either the dog, the 8-year-old, or the 5-year-old that comes.
I was about to say the same thing. So yeah, I guess learning about how, getting information on how the kind of the leadership of the committee would be selected, in terms of, would it be something that the higher ups would decide on, or would we kind of vote on that ourselves in terms of what, who would be kind of in charge and leading and assigning different tasks.
What do you envision, Tim?
So I think, as far as the time commitment goes, to start, I think the meetings will probably be once a month, in the evenings, at a time, that is most convenient. We also have to consider town staff that needs to be involved as well. And then once we have our first meeting, then I think as a group we can determine how often we do want to meet, and that's going to be determined to your other question as to what we want to accomplish. So there is a charge for the committee, but it's really general, and the idea being that once the committee is established, I think it's going to be important for the committee to have that first meeting and say, these are the types of things that we would like to accomplish as a committee, and take into consideration everybody's background, everybody's different experiences, not only within the town, but with their upbringing in their professional lives. And then once we establish that scope, then we can say, is meeting once a month enough? Is meeting twice a month? I don't envision us meeting more than twice a month. I think that's probably the most that we'll meet. And much like you, it's tough with this COVID situation that's going on, and Zooms were fun. Now they're not.
I feel you. I definitely feel you. Yeah, and I think the other question I had, at NECC where I work, we've set up a diversity committee, in kind of reaction to the conversation we're having at a national level related to this topic. I know that in my own field of work, we just had our regional conference in behavior analysis a few weeks ago, virtually, because that's the way things are. But a lot of the talks were focused on, this topic. And I guess another question is, and this might be something that is kind of decided within the group, once it's selected and we start meeting, would we open up to having, experts in this area come in to help assist with whatever goals or strategies that we have for what we want to do with the committee and the town?
I think it's going to be part of the discussions that we have as a committee. Like the ultimate goal of the committee is, after 12 months, to present to the Board of Selectmen recommendations for the community to improve diversity and inclusion. And I think a big part of those recommendations are going to center around educating the community, educating town staff, and how do we do that? And that's bringing in experts, investing some time and resources into training and those sorts of things. So whether that happens during the 12 months that the committee meets or not, I'm not sure. But it's, you know, at the end of it, I do believe that that will be an important part of the recommendations that the committee does make.
So I think we're at the end of our interview time period here. Unless there's anything else you have to say, I just want to say that your application is very impressive. Looking through your poster and presentation list, so very impressive application. It's great work that you're doing.
Thank you.
Wonderful. So we will be interviewing people as well next week, 7 people, and then make a decision at our Board of Selectmen meeting on November 9th.
Perfect.
So nothing will be decided before then. We just want to make sure we're giving everybody a fair time shake to to see everybody and speak with everybody. So we really appreciate your application and thank you for taking the time to interview with us this evening.
Thank you very much. Hope you guys have a pleasant evening.
You too. Thanks so much.
Thank you. It was nice meeting you.
Nice meeting you too.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, guys, if you're all set,
We're all set. That's everybody for this evening.
all right. I will
So
stop the recording and stop the streaming, and at least it'll be more than 24 hours before I see you again, maybe.
hopefully not, Dave.
Well, you're always welcome to come to the fire station. Come on down. Take care, guys.
All right.
Thanks so
Thank you,
much.
Chief.
I appreciate it.